What's going on, guys? Welcome to All Access Magic. My name is Ryan Edwards. This guy, I'm on the other side today. I was usually I'm on the other side. This screw me up.
There we go.
There we go. There we go. This guy over here.
Welcome everybody to the show. We are so excited for this episode. This was going to be intense. This is going to be great. We've had a lot of requests for this guest, and we're so happy we've been able to get him on today.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun one. I think, we go way back. Lots of funny stories. Probably none that we can say on air because they're all ridiculous. But I can't wait.
Guys were reminiscing a little bit on some of those ridiculous stories.
We were.
Yeah. We'll see how many of those can make their way into the episode.
Yeah. But we're here to create new stories tonight with you guys. So I guess how it works. If you guys have any questions for our guest, make sure to comment them in the comment section, and we'll make sure to try to ask as many of them as we can, because it's just open reign for you guys to meet this guy. So should we bring him in?
Without further ado, this man is a cardist, a magician, mentalist, multi-talented, the man,
the myth,
the legend,
Franco,
the man,
the myth,
the legend,
Pascali. There he is.
Man.
What's going on?
How's it going? That was an intro. I like that.
You like that one?
I
didn't want to yell too loud. It's late at night here. But, nice.
Instead of a we just got you cutting the deck.
That's it. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. You're already getting comments.
Wow.
He's handsome too. Don't forget.
And hyped up. Ego stroking off the bat.
Garvin is in the house. What's up, Garvin? Now, Garvin was telling us this week. Garvin is one of our patrons, and so we were chatting with him. And I think he said that one of your downloads was like the first magic trick he ever bought. Yeah. Other than a book. He bought a book, and he hadn't used it in a while, but then he bought your download, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
So he was pumped for you to come on tonight. So
thank you.
Mike Martinez is in the house.
Drip double. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Lindsay wants to know if she signs up for our Patreon at patreon.com/allaccessmagic. She wants to know if she signs up for the Patreon, will she be able to see both of your eyes?
Yeah, it's a premium. It is.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, Lindsay, you got to sign up.
The other eye. So it'll be
Lindsay. Yeah, Lindsay, if you sign up during the podcast, we will make Franco show both of his eyes.
Just realized I could see the comments. Woo!
The other one's a glass eye, so that's why he's just
he just covers it.
Yeah,
he's actually wearing an eye patch. He's
gotten the other one entirely tattooed.
Yeah.
There's a whole black eye.
That's
Carlos Suarez is in the house. What is up?
Carlos, love you, buddy.
Yeah.
You gotta hang soon.
Carlos is amazing.
Carlos is great.
And Jones is here. Nice.
The whole show, we just say names on the chat. I like it.
Yeah. That's it. It's kind of
drip double. That's right.
It's kind of my friend who's a comedian on a cruise ship. He starts his show off with that. He says, "Ask people where they're from," and he goes, "Because the ship, everybody that gets on stage like lectures at them, and then no one ever talks to them and asks them questions. So the first 10 minutes of his show, he's like, 'Where are you from?' and then just makes jokes about that stuff, and it's great." But
so Franco, so what's your address?
Yeah, so we can grab your address.
Ready?
So speaking of your address, what's your address?
8. Address very quick. Good effect. You Sam the bellhop the addresses of the people at home. You IP, right? You look at their IPs and you go there.
Exactly. Sam the bellhop. Just everybody gets DDoSed in our chat. Amazing.
That's Franco's new virtual release coming out next month.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that.
Cyber the bellhop.
That's hilarious. Alexa all of a sudden started going off in here for some reason.
Franco, so when you started out in magic, how quickly after you began in magic did you get interested in cardistry? What was the impetus, or did you start with cardistry first?
It was late. I started technically going to a magic shop when I was 7, 8. Hollywood Magic. My mom would take me, so that loved that as a kid.
Right on the boulevard, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't get into cardistry till way later. I kind of did magic on and off, like age 7, 8, all the way up to like 10, 11-ish, and then I was too busy playing Call of Duty and skating for 2 years. And then when I was 13, as you do, right? When I was 13, I got, you know what I got? I got the Paul Harris True Astonishment set. And something clicked in my head after that. And I saw that DVD set, and it was the highest quantity of magic that I wanted to learn, like in my whole life. Like before I go to the shop, see a demo, I'm like, I'll take the fucking Paradox SpongeBob box, or I'll take the Matchbox Mix 3 or a Thought Transmitter, because I'm going to do mentalism at 9, right? But then I see this box set, and the Paul Harris box set was just like a lot that I wanted to learn. So I obsessed on that for like a year. I joined the Magic Castle, and when I met the young dudes at the Magic Club, I saw them doing cardistry. I saw somebody do the worm, and then I was like, oh, I want to learn that. And then I learned that, and the rest is history. So I started cardistry around 14-ish.
Gotcha. Yeah. And were the Buck twins part of an impetus to that, or your like learning process, or not necessarily?
I just can't even read some of these comments. They're killing me.
I keep smiling.
He wants to know if you have tips on the finger blast pass.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some history to that.
Yeah.
That's Patreon only content. We're doing.
That's also sub to our OnlyFans.
Yeah.
You asked about the Buck twins, which are huge inspirations to me. I believe one of the first times I met the Buck twins was either through Omar Renfro or Michael Stern. I can't forget which, but I met Dave Buck first. Nothing but kind. He had a place in Hollywood, and his kitchen island, I remember, underneath his kitchen island was just like, you open it, and there's so many fire decks in there, you have like a heart attack. Like, you're just like, this is the coolest shit ever. This is the coolest shit ever. All the smoking, Jerry stacked up, golden nuggets, blue seal tally hose, the whole thing. So I met them, and they really got me like into it. Because when I first started cardistry, the trilogy was one of the few things that I could even try to learn. Too hard at the time, but I still tried, and I loved it. So
yeah, I remember watching that, like the trilogy, and going like, I could do cardistry. I do card magic and stuff back then. And then immediately was like, no, I'm never gonna do this. This is way too hard. Like, I was like trying to do stuff, and I'm like, this just doesn't look like it does there. The only thing I could do was I think it's called the Caravan fan or Carahan fan. I could do that. I got that down pretty good, and I was like, oh, sweet, okay, this is cool. But other than that, like most of it, I was just terrible.
Yeah, it's it's hard. Cardistry's hard, but it teaches you, like with hard moves, you can either do it or you can't. And you realize how one fraction of difference finger placement wise, or if a pivotal packet's in the wrong position, it won't work. Like a small example would be a move I can't do anymore, the Pandora, right? Which opens like this. If this pivoting packet, instead of being here is here, the move just doesn't work. Just that little centimeter of difference is it either works or it doesn't. And at the time, just like, wow, like I got to figure that out.
Yeah, that was one that that's when I got into mentalism. I just like, forget this cardistry stuff. I love it. I think it's incredible. Like when I see you guys doing stuff, I'm like, yeah, I wish I could do that, but I know that I can't. And so, put in the past.
Shout out Chris Mayhew and Kobe.
Oh, Kobe, what's going on? Yeah, Chris, how you guys doing? But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Kobe popped in. Haven't seen him for a while.
Oh, by the way, not to be too degen, but before the podcast started, I was like, I do need water. First, I was joking, but I was like, let me run and get water real quick. I'm at my mom's right now because it's her birthday, so we've been hanging out. She's cooking and stuff. We're gonna chill after this. So I go into the kitchen. I'm like, do you have something to drink? And then she's like, yeah, champagne. And then I'm like, what? Okay. And then I just walked back down. This wasn't.
I was like, why did he bring such a small amount of water to
that's what I thought too.
I was like, he's gonna be, I mean, that's less water than Takumi. And
yeah. So we found out a few weeks ago that Takumi hasn't drank water in like 4 or 5 years.
What do you mean?
Takumi only drinks Red Bull.
That's like the opposite David Blaine. What the fuck is going on here? He has drinking water in 5 years?
Yeah. He only drinks Red Bull. And if he can't get a Red Bull, he'll...
That's exactly it. It's like that's why he can top shot so far. Is his hands are just tricking out.
Man,
he doesn't mean to do the top shot. His fingers just naturally just jitters and does
he's just involuntarily top shot all the time. He's like, oh, I guess there's the 4 aces.
Yeah, he's just always set to go. It was great. So we made him drink water.
Oh yeah. If you guys check out our Instagram, the All Access Magic Instagram, you can see a highlight from that. And yeah, Takumi, we got him to drink some water on the show. He literally took 1 sip and was disgusted and then went back to his Red Bull can. And he was like, I have 5 or 6 a day. I'm going to die soon, were his exact words.
The funny thing is he smelled the water first. He was like,
yeah.
Oh, it doesn't have any smell. Like it's water.
Like, it's water. That's how it works.
It shouldn't. If it has a smell, you shouldn't drink it.
Franco's over here with his champagne, the bougiest guest of all time.
That's it.
We do class. We do class.
Now,
Red Bull gives your cards wings.
Gives your cards wings. That's how the top shot.
And what we learned is that it's actually not even wings with Red Bull, that it's wings because they got sued for saying wings. So
yeah, and I saw that in the commercial after you mentioned it, and I was mind blown.
Yeah,
it's actually
it's like a $12 million lawsuit because someone said that they drank Red Bull all the time and didn't grow wings, and so they sued for $12 million. So.
We
got to transition from beverages. My mind is exploding at every second.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, riveting conversation. Now, I remember you. I remember one of the first times that we hung out in LA, and you were driving, and I was like, "We're gonna die," because Franco's doing cardistry with both hands, like just the entire time, looking over at me, having a conversation. He's like, "Oh yeah, what kind of double lift do you do?" And just having a conversation, steering with his knee. And I was like, "Yeah, okay, I get steering with your knee, but like, are you gonna look at the road?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I learned this from the Bucks."
That's literally how I practice doing card magic. I would drive with my knee all the time.
No, it's the best. That's when you're 18 and you think you own the world, you know?
I literally, back in the day when I had a job, like a real 9-to-5 job, I would drive and like shave on my way to work and be like eating breakfast and stuff. And I wanted to start a YouTube channel of like this shit that I do on the way to work. But I figured eventually they would figure out what car I was driving, like if police ended up seeing it, and like, you know, the route I was taking, and I'd be busted for sure because I was doing all kinds of stupid stuff.
You know, there's a couple routines I do in the car that like I don't need to really engage how you're imagining, but there's a couple routines where I could be driving and say, "Hey, take the deck," and while I'm driving, I kind of talk them through a few processes. And then either divine a card or locate, you know, any card, and it's kind of fun to do that. With some hands off. Like, a crimp goes a long way when you're driving and the other person's next to you. It's pretty fun.
Oh yeah, especially routines where you would normally turn away and be like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to see anything. Do everything by yourself." Like, I can't be looking because I'm trying to keep us alive right now.
That's it. Yeah, never record illegal activity. Thank you, Grant. Yeah, definitely did not. I mean, we've had some good video chats as well in cars. Do you remember? So I was with Franco in New York City with Xavier. Do you remember going for deep fried Oreos?
Yeah.
That was
late. It was late.
It was late. Actually, before that, we went out for pizza. Mm-hmm. I think it's like Little John's or something like that. Little Johnny's or Little Joey's pizza.
Rapper. No. We went to a Joe's.
Joe's. Okay. Yeah. Joe's. Little
Wayne's pizza.
Little Wayne's pizza.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw a thing with Justin Bieber yesterday, and it was the roast of Justin Bieber, and he said that Kevin Hart calls Lil Wayne just Wayne because he's so small. But it was great. But yeah, we went to Joey's and crushed. Like this guy ran out of money. He was like, "Yo, I borrow more money to go get more pizza." Like we sat in Xavier's car and ate it. Oh yeah.
Was it cash over?
I think it might have been cash only. I don't know. We just kept going in and getting more pizza.
It's a $2 slice place, right? Like right now, the money at Joe's famous $2 slice.
Ran out of money.
Deep fried Oreo. I mean,
well,
the plan wasn't to get that, right? We were just like, what?
No,
and Xavier's
that's
like,
it. It was super late at night. I forget who we asked, if it was Doug McKenzie or someone we saw, and said, where can we go to get food at this time? Because I think if you remember, we went out like the night before with B. Smith to the burger place that didn't. It was like a sit down restaurant, and we all got burgers, but there was no.
Yeah, that was late. That's
a
kitchen or.
I don't remember what it was called, but there was no prices on the menu, and then we got our bill.
I remember that.
And we both like shit our pants because we got just like a burger. We thought like $15 probably for a burger. And it was like not a great tasting burger or whatever. And the bill came in, it was like $38 or something for the burger, like something stupid. And yeah, we never ate with B. Smith ever again.
Man, that was a while ago. That was fun though.
Yeah, that was some crazy nights.
Now, what is your favorite context to perform magic in? Is it in a formal performance setting where you know people are showing up to see magic, like at the castle in a close-up setting, on stage, or just casual impromptu? Where do you really feel at home when you're performing?
It's a great question. The answer for me is definitely my favorite place to perform magic is in a close-up show environment. I like being at a table. And I like people being just packed around me, you know? We're talking 20 to 30 people, not a ton, right? Love that. I love being at a table. I'll have people behind me. I don't care at all. But I like the proximity because I thrive a lot with that proximity. So, you know, I almost always, when I'm trying to book gigs, I just say, look, here's my appearance fee. I'll do a 30 to 40 minute close-up show. I just need a table and to pack everybody around. I send them pictures of past events to give them the loose idea. It's the simplest setup at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Half of the time, I don't even have a close-up pad. It's just a table and we just do stuff, right? So that's absolutely my favorite. Social environments are always going to be fun. You know, that's like cool no matter where you're at a friend's house or at a bar or whatever that's going to be. And then love doing it on stage. But I think I'm better on stage in 15-minute increments, you know? Just in like with like where my skill kind of is with that. If I'm at a table, I feel like I could go on for an hour, like confidently with cards and just do some very fun stuff. On stage, I'm kind of like, I'm more scripted and I could hit you with like a killer 15 minutes, right? Like a piece that I just thought I had all the beats. So yeah, I prefer close up. That's my favorite. My passion in magic as a whole is close up. That's what I respond to the most. That's what I'm most passionate about. I try to create the most magic in that field and think about that the most. Yeah.
Are the majority of your influences or the people that inspired you in that same kind of category, like Gaby Pareras or something, like people that are in that Spanish school doing that table close-up setting, or like were you inspired by completely other types of magicians and that's just where you've gravitated towards?
There's a lot of magic I've been inspired by, but yeah, I would say so. I think if I were to choose my like favorite heroes, so to speak, they would be close-up magicians, you know. Some of them Spanish, of course. There's, you know, great friends of mine I think do some incredible stuff. They've taught me so much. Close-up for me, and I think where it lies is in the proximity, right? I mean, what else can do that? Meaning, like, what other form of entertainer could like be at a table with 10 people right in front of your face and you could entertain for an hour? It exists. Don't get me, it's not like it's the only thing you can do, but it's like, what really could that be? It's not really going to be comedy, right?
Yeah. It could be like a musician, but like, yeah, they just keep jamming.
You know, like musician with an acoustic, but yeah.
It is rare for sure.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's like you're not going to have an hour-long fire reading show with people right next to you.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah, it gets boring after the first like 2 minutes. But yeah, that's the cool thing. I like Stefan had a question. It says, do your shows have an underlying theme and a consistent premise, or do you just free flow with stuff? So if you're doing like a close-up gig, do you have like a set list, or are you just like, I'm just going to keep blowing these people away with different card tricks and stuff.
I have a close-up set list, but built into the set list, if we're talking close-up, right? So in terms of effects, I have a set list, and within that set list, I have 5 to even 15-minute chunks that I physically know I can do whatever I want in those pockets. So there's like probably, if I were to do an hour-long close-up show, like 20 minutes of that might literally be different from show to show, while the rest will be the same. If we're talking about an underlying theme or constant premise or consistent premise, I would say when I'm on stage, each of my effects absolutely have an underlying theme, and that's more obvious. When I'm in a close-up setting, it's not necessarily the case. It's very free flow. It could change from effect to effect. And I think I perform a lot of cardistry as well while I'm, around people. So I think when I do a close-up show, the underlying premise is just like this world of entertainment with cards. That's multidimensional. It's my own dexterity. It's verbal across the table where I'm not even involved, seemingly. It's done as a group. It's surprising. So it's just kind of anything, cards as entertainment. I don't think of it as magic. I don't think of it as mentalism, even if I do a direct prediction or what seems like a direct reading. I don't think of it as cardist. It's just entertainment with cards. And then I just have my mind at ease with that idea.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always easier if you can free flow with stuff and have there's so many guys that we watch that are so structured that with that set list, you have that 15, 20 minutes that you can just kind of free flow and doing cardistry in between and stuff like that, obviously can spur someone to go whoa, what the heck was that? And then go into more of that, with the cardistry stuff and explain the background of that and stuff, which I like. Because like you said, in that close-up atmosphere as well, there's if you're watching a stage show, you can't be excuse me, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Partway through the show.
Where are you from?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Where exactly. But in a close-up experience.
Oh, cool. Well, where are you from?
Where are you from? Yeah. Nebraska in the house.
In the house. But in a close-up experience, you could do that a little bit more, right? Because it's a little bit more loose, free feeling where you can have that conversation.
I'll tell you what happens, which I think is a slight phenomenon that I've experienced when I'm in the pacing of card routines, right? And I like fast-paced stuff. So I like beat. I kind of learned throughout the years not to let people wait too long for that first beat at the beginning. So I'm just kind of conversational magic going into these presentations, and then say 5 effects in, I start to just kind of show them cardistry and elaborating on what cardistry is, could be what it is to me, and I just kind of do cardistry. And what happens at that point is that when people see cardistry, and keep in mind, I'm not talking about a 10-minute segment of straight cardistry. I'm talking about 3 minutes, right? 3 to 4 minutes. I'm doing cardistry. At that point, people start asking me questions, and it almost turns into a free flow conversation every time. And I'm not sure exactly why that is, because people might have questions during the magic, but I think the magical path, although unknown, they can still sense it's getting to a point and they don't want to interrupt that flow. When I'm just kind of talking about the dexterity of it all, they have questions and we start talking about it. And it's kind of interesting, In a way,
it's almost as if the artifice kind of fades away for a moment. It's you're no longer within a narrative, within a show for that moment. It's they're just talking to you and you're showing them a piece of who you are and what you've spent your time, a craft that you've spent time developing.
Right.
So they get to actually see Franco, not Franco the magician, for a little bit, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I hope they only see Franco, It's not everybody's style to try and be your truest self on stage. Some people thrive from the opposite. When they're on stage, they're a different animal. You see them off stage, you can't really gauge them. You see them on stage, oh shit, that's who it is.
Yeah.
I personally try to be myself as much as possible while performing. And I think that's one of the main reasons, that and just the amount of years I've been doing close-up more, but I think that's one of the main reasons that I'm more effective close-up. It's an intangible authenticity just from doing it so long. When you're on stage, I'm still me, but it's different. It's a little different.
Yeah, you still have that stage voice where you're commanding the attention of the audience, right?
Absolutely.
Anybody that's been on stage for a while, no matter how much they try to be themselves on stage, you will always notice there's still a little bit of a difference for sure.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, it's like everybody's facing a different direction. Everybody's facing you. You're the only one facing this way. It's like, the attention's totally different. And also it's like, it's not conversational in the same way. You're monologuing at the audience and you have to invite them to speak. Whereas like, it's cool what you're talking about in a close-up performance context. It's like everybody's on the same level and you can actually have a genuine conversation. And then the performance kind of melds with just an everyday experience. You're kind of heightening their reality instead of escaping them to this other like show.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Now, I like this question because I was going to ask, because I know you said you do cardistry partway through. And I mean, that's always been the big, I don't want to say the big, I mean, it was years ago. It was the argument whether cardistry was magic or if it belonged in magic or what it was, where it fits. And I know some people said, I don't do cardistry because I want my card tricks to feel like magic, where when I'm showing so much skill with my hands, people relate the card tricks to skill. And I understand both sides, but
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I get why people.
No, but I get where they're coming from. So then Ben says, do you ever integrate cardistry into magic performance? And if so, how do you do it? We know that you do because you do it partway through, but do you ever add cardistry like partway through a routine? As you're doing a card trick, you're doing some flourishes and stuff as well.
Yeah, these are great questions. The things I think about a lot. The main thing to tackle is that thought that you brought up, which is, if I do cardistry, does that discredit my other routines? And it's like, well, if you suck at communicating what you're doing, sure. Because if I do cardistry, and then I hand somebody the deck, and 3 minutes goes by where you haven't touched the cards and 4 things have happened, people aren't stupid. So they're not going to think, that's the fucking cardistry again. Right.
Yeah.
Interesting is, who that advice is, where that advice even came from, and even magicians much greater than me in the past have said similar things. But let's be honest, they're not good cardists, right? Yeah. When I see a phenomenal cardist give that advice, I'll listen to his side of the story more than anybody else, because it almost seems like a cop out from people that can't really, do anything.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I just always thought it was an interesting debate whether, and like you said, it is great to hear someone that is fantastic at cardistry and get their side of it, because like you said, most people that don't do it are like, it doesn't belong in magic. And It's like, well, and the cool thing is now that there's kids growing up that only do cardistry, that don't do magic at all.
Tons.
And yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine it might be. Oh, I didn't want to cut you off. What were you gonna say, Ryan?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine maybe that's the people that get ticked off or something when they do an effect, and somebody's like, "Oh, I know how you did it, sleight of hand," and it's like, okay, well then just crush that by overtly showing what you're capable with sleight of hand, and then going here and handing them the deck. Yeah. It's like, okay, what are you gonna say, sleight of hand? I'm showing you I can do sleight of hand, but this is not that.
And there is a wrong time to show your prowess. There's always going to be a wrong time. Yeah. Let's in the simplest form. If I go to you and I say, Ryan, what I'm going to try and do is scan the deck for one card, right? And then I do that card. That feels very different than, right? They're not necessarily above or below each other. We just need to understand how absolutely different those two things are and what that's communicating, right? So as long as, I think each routine has its own bubble, and within that bubble, you should listen to the rules that you think that routine is asking you to listen to, but it doesn't have a ripple effect as much as you might think. One won't just affect the rest of it, I believe. Okay, this I could understand.
We actually have a call in from a viewer. Somebody has a
nice
question, so I'm going to bring them up. If anybody else would like to call in, you can go to 1v1magic.com and you can join the stage. And I'm going to bring up Mr. Stig, who has a question for you. And
great.
We'll see if he requested to speak. We'll see if he accepts my invitation to speak. But in the meantime, an example I think of with that, And this is not at all to roast a friend of mine, but Dynamo used to always in his TV appearances do an ambitious card routine, and then he would go, all right, let's do the Dynamo shuffle, and then he would just do a ton of cardistry right after they put the card back in the deck. And I'm like, wouldn't have been just more magical to just have it appear on top instead of overtly controlling it? I understand that that's part of his premise, and he has a justification for it, and I'd love to talk to him about why he chooses to go with that presentation more. But like, sometimes, there's a right and maybe not wrong, but, less ideal time to show your prowess.
Absolutely. Some of these comments are very funny. If you see them off to the side and just smiling.
Lindsay
I read
always
them all
has
the
the
time.
funniest comments.
Yeah.
I don't like doing multivariable calculus because it discredits my subtractions. Stig, how you doing, Stig? You can unmute yourself. Can you guys hear him?
Stig, are you there? No, can't hear anything yet.
Let me make sure. Let me make sure that they can hear you. Okay, you want to try one more time, Stig?
Hello, are you guys there?
There we go.
They can hear.
How about now? Is this a little bit better?
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Hello. This is great. Okay, awesome. So I'm just realizing this is probably a bigger production than I thought it was. I got a Discord notification. I see 2 people in here on my end, so I thought this might be a little bit more.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. We're currently live. Here. We're currently live with Franco, and we're doing a podcast. So yeah, this is the call-in section of the Discord. So if you have any questions,
my bad. No, I do have, I guess, a comment on maybe someone can take it and turn it maybe into a thought or a question or opinions on it. You guys were talking about something that I find interesting, which is like where cardistry goes in Magic. And I just always look at it like I see a lot of like parallels and like music and Magic as well, where there's like different genres. And so you have like kind of like prog rock and math rock, which is like extremely technically like interesting. And like there's certainly a time and a place for that. And like there's a whole genre where it like totally makes sense and it's coherent to like the kind of end goal of that type of music. And then you have like more like, I don't know, like simplistic, like maybe punk rock where it's more just direct and to the point. And I don't know. I feel like there is a time and place for flourishes, and there's also like effects where it makes more sense maybe to be a little bit more direct.
Definitely. It's also fun that, you brought up music, and one thing that I've thought to myself as just a mental template that helps you be creative. In the genre of electronic music, okay? Be it dubstep or electronic trap or some modern SoundCloud fusion. You have these beat drops where the lead up is completely different than the drop, right? So it's like they're changing up, it's a change up, right? People say, oh, I like that beat switch up. So it's like the song starts, you're boom, it's like you're leading up, then the beat drops. And then the second time it's the same lead up, but the drop is completely different. And that U-turn could be very, very, very useful in Magic, especially considering what they just saw before, right? So you could really lead somebody down a path and hit them with the U-turns. Now, I'm a person that I think none of us will disagree. Surprise is one of the single most important variables in strong Magic. It's not 100% necessary all the time, but I think we all agree that what a surprise could do to an audience or person is incredible, astounding, to the point where sometimes a surprise might not be so logical, and a magician will say, yeah, well, it doesn't really make sense. Yet when you do it, it still resonates with people, right? And sometimes reaction doesn't care about logic. Doesn't mean we shouldn't chase logic, but sometimes reactions are not logical, right? Why people are reacting to something. And I think that beat switch ups and U-turns and changing the pace could be really good. Maybe your first 3 effects are mentalism, and then you just start shredding cardistry. Like what that does to the perception could be interesting and juggled well. And
I think like Magic's a great medium where like you can use any platform possible to connect with your audience, and that's what's important. Like the amazing Jonathan made an entire career as a magician, like hardly doing any magic tricks, and it was just like kind of the anti-joke of Magic, where it was like you are expecting a magic trick, and then it just is like the rug's pulled out from underneath you. But it like connects with people in a very similar way that like strong Magic does, because it's just like unexpected. What you're saying with like the beat drop.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of unexpected moments from that guy.
Unexpected moment is Franco. Do you get jump scared when people approach you from the right?
Thank you. By the way, I'm going to move it back to the audience, but thank you for
That's absolutely an amazing question. But that was a great question.
I'm sure I have at some point,
Yeah, I just thought that.
Sometimes to do the top change, you're at a bar, you pretend there's somebody on your right, and you're like,
yeah.
Well, there was nobody on my right. Whoops! Here's the top change.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. Well, do you think we should get to know Franco a little bit better?
I think we absolutely should get to know Franco a little bit better. I think it's that time. Are you ready?
At that time, I'm ready. I don't know if Franco's ready.
I'm ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time. It's time for 20 questions. It's time for 20 questions. Yeah, it's time for 20 questions. It's time for 20 questions. Yeah, put 2 minutes on the clock. 2 minutes on the clock. Put 2 minutes on the clock. 2 minutes on the clock. Here we go.
Here we go.
Are you ready?
2 minutes and 20 questions.
We're gonna ask you. We're gonna try to ask you as many rapid fire questions as we can.
Okay.
Your goal is to give good, honest answers, because we get some people that just go you guys for every answer, which is not great. So good, honest answers. We're gonna rip through 20. We'll go back and forth between the both of us, and see how many questions you can get through.
Yeah, we'll see how you stack up on the leaderboards. How many questions you can get through in 2 minutes. How fast does Franco's brain work? As fast as his hands?
We know his hands are fast, but his brain is quick.
The brain's always faster. Nothing beats the brain. Next question.
Oh, nice.
Ooh,
Look at that.
Question, I'm ready.
All right.
3,
Here we
2,
go.
1, go.
Dream vacation destination.
Spain. Barcelona.
Biggest pet peeve.
When people don't admit what they don't know, they don't know.
Biggest mistake during a performance.
Just deck in complete wrong order. Just could not be less on track. Like that.
What always makes you laugh?
The other guys with Will Ferrell.
Secret talent.
I make hip hop and rap music with my friends.
What's the first time you ever saw a magic trick?
My father's friend showed me a version of a one-way deck trick.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Telekinetic powers.
Dream performance venue.
Just like some stunning close-up venue, like as bougie as it gets, but close-up.
Most cherished memory.
Some nights performing at the castle when I was younger.
Favorite food?
Italian, Japanese, pizza, sushi, pasta.
Favorite movie?
There Will Be Blood.
What's the worst job you ever had?
Magic's the best and worst job. It's the only one I've ever.
Favorite magician?
I don't know. David Blaine, Aussie Wynn, Darren Brown, Tamariz, Danny Ortiz, something like that.
If you won the lottery, what's the first thing you'd buy?
A giant crib where all artists could come and stay with me. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
Nice.
You made it through.
Like it.
A wimpy 14 questions.
14. Pretty rough on the scale of.
Pretty rough. But no.
Well, questions. So they're better questions.
Yeah. Questions. Touche.
Yeah, just he wants just yes or no questions next time.
No, you had much better answers than a lot of our guests, and you actually took a moment to think through them. And we both had the same dream vacation destination of Barcelona, Spain. So but we could do some of the rest of them. What's your most highly recommended magic product or book?
Wow, I don't even know how to answer that.
Good thing this wasn't in the 2 minutes.
Yeah, you have a deck of cards coming out.
Yeah, I do. We're getting into that. We're just U-turning right away. Yeah, cardistry.com.
There you go. See?
I'm plugging it. You ready? This beautiful deck of cards is out and available now. They are fully marked. They are uncrushed. United States Playing Card Company, bicycle stock. They feel fantastic. The password for the website is everything cards, all lowercase. There's another deck that you will see on the site that's marked as sold out because we only did a 1-week pre-order window, and that window's over. So they will be available when they're printed in a couple months. But
Cardilago.com, password everything cards.
There you
Scroll
go.
across the bottom.
See?
Check it out.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's got to be the most highly recommended magic product or book, right? It's a product. There you go.
I mean, I'm not for that question, but
yeah,
my lack of answer, we could pivot to.
It's a good plug. It's a good plug. I figured it's a good way to plug it.
We don't have a behind the gimmicks this week. That is because we did not want to be promoting any other products other than Cardilago this week. So check out everything cards is the password.
And, everything cards, all one word, by the way. But
it put a space in. No, okay.
Oh, he's gonna fix it.
Okay, so just follow what's scrolling on the bottom. Don't follow what I just.
There you go. No, but really, I'm thinking about the best magic product that I could possibly recommend. It might be attending a convention for the first time and actually meeting magicians and seeing all the lectures, good and bad, and the jams that go outside in the lobby, and getting a chance to go through the, all the shops and whatnot, the stands. That's just a really good experience, and it's not like directly something that you could quantify as the single best magic experience. But what I've always said is the greatest theory I've ever learned in magic, and I'm a person that thinks most of the magic theories we read about are like not too important and not as important as we think, okay? But what I do think is that in person, I've learned more advice than I could ever learn in the culmination of the online world and books combined. When you're in person, it's a completely different realm. So I would say absolutely go to a magic convention if you've never been, just to experience that. That will change your perception on a lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's when I first met Pete McKinnon. He was like, hey, let's go to Vegas. It was when IMX was around. And he's like, let's go to IMX. And I was like, I don't know about magic conventions. I kind of just do this as a hobby kind of thing. And he's like, nope, let's go, get on the plane. And we went, and it changed my life. Like I remember I bought something from Pro Mystic at the time, and it was like $600. And I was like, I had only spent like $30 on like some magic books and stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm spending $600, and I'm like, stressed beyond belief. I'm like, but that started it, because then I was like, oh, well, nothing is expensive now. Like a book, it's like $50. I spent $600 on this trick, so it did change my life as well. So
I think that's a pretty universal. I think anybody could like that. And then if I actually meet somebody and see their work, I might be able to recommend something that like changed my perception. For example, somebody wanted to know like one of my biggest influences in card magic. There's a few, of course, but it has to be Danny de Ortiz, okay? When I'm 14, 15 at the castle, I'm seeing these psychological stop forcing techniques, all right? Now, that's not a normal thing to see at that age. That's not something that your brain immediately understands. In fact, I would argue the classic force is not even that appealing at that age. But when I saw Danny's approach to that magic, and I fell in love with it, even being much more of a move monkey then than I even am now, then I thought it was all about just knuckle busting sleight of hands, but I see the polar opposite and fall in love with it. So there's certain styles of, let's say, within the card world of magic that could change your entire perception of it, And Utopia by Danny de Ortiz is an amazing video project. If you don't have that, like you should get that. He goes through so much.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah, Danny's an absolute beast. He's actually got a new book coming out and stuff that we're hoping to do a review on and stuff, but we'll see. But yeah, he's absolutely incredible. I remember seeing him at the castle as well, and just absolutely frying people over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I like. There was a question that came up from Marquez. What are your top 3 go-to effects right now?
I mean, come on, dude. These questions are so hard. It's so hard.
I know that is the tough thing. Is like because you said like conversational magic. Like
you want to try.
Depends on where you are.
You know, like me having 3 go-to effects doesn't help me as much as you think, because I want to try new shit. And when you have people, it's an opportunity to try something new. So it's like, you know, there's some effects that I've been doing in a close-up show for years and years and years, you know, like Concam Coincidence by R. Paul Wilson, right? That's an effect that I know the second anything goes wrong, if the proper card is peaked, I could pivot into that routine, you know? And that's just a home run routine. Having an out of this world ready to go, right? With the ability to cull. These are just things that in a show I will do forever, you know, my whole life, right? But like go-to effects, just like it'll change from week to week to week. It really depends. Lately, I'll tell you, I read like most of Bannon's like books recently. I've been going through some Bannon books, and I've been doing AK-47 and a version of the Bannon Triumph that I like a lot. That's literally as of a few days ago. I've been with Ron Pink. We've been jamming on some of that stuff, but yeah. Terrible answer. Sorry about that.
No, it's good
and
answer.
Ben has a great question as well about what practicing looks like to you, especially nowadays. I'm assuming practice has probably changed as you've progressed in Magic, what that looks like to you. So, you know, how do you have a set aside, you know, practice schedule or regimen, or is it just kind of free flowing whenever you get a chance? What does practice look like to you, especially when you're constantly working on new material?
Absolutely. I can tell you one thing I do. Well, first of all, I practice. You could ask anybody who knows me, any of my closest friends. Very rare for me not to practice 8 to 12 hours a day. Okay. I know that sounds insane. And of course, I'm not 12 hours like drilling, but the cards are in my hands. And there's certainly going to be 6 to 7 hours of focused practice a day. So I do that all the time. So then the question becomes, how do you not get burnt out? That's a better question, right? Because ultimately, if you come in with a mindset to practice constantly a day, and by the end of the day, you're just mindlessly practicing your strike doubles, all you really did was mindlessly practice strike doubles for 3 hours, which is not a bad thing, but it is what it is. So in my mind, I have the following things. I have learning new magic, using my resources to learn new magic, meaning read a magic book, maybe get a product in that rare instance, talk to my friends, ask the people I know questions, meet with magicians, learn magic. That's one mode. The other mode is practice the magic you already know. You say, I perform these tricks in my routine. What could I do to add them, change them, or make them better? Then there's create magic, okay? Thinking about what interests you, finding one gem of an idea from any aspect of presentation, method, to studying a classic and saying, it doesn't matter. Creating magic, whatever process you use. Then there's doing cardistry, practicing the cardistry you already know, creating cardistry, and learning new cardistry. So I think that's 8 things that if any of those get boring, I immediately can shift to one of the others. And this is in constant cycle. More recently, I went through a heavy cardistry phase. I do cardistry all the time, but meaning I did like some weeks of dedicated cardistry work, right? And in the past week, for example, I've met with my buddy Ron 3-4 times. We get together, we chat routines we like, work on something, and then film it. And we just film me doing it to him just to get the words out and whatnot. And that's kind of how it goes. I'm always on magic. I will jump at it at any opportunity. I'll stay in to fuck with cards if I'm feeling that. Like I'd rather do this above like anything. Yeah.
I think that's we know what that is. Yeah.
That's the vibe.
Yeah. That's a mic drop right there. That's a gold nugget of wisdom. Oh yeah. You can continually practice, and that was great that you pivoted the question to being more about how to not get burnt out. And because you have so many different interests within the same umbrella category of cards, whether that's magic or cardistry, you never really get bored with them because there's always something new to progress at. So.
Definitely.
Yeah. There was so many questions that came in since that first question. There was 3 card effects you stopped doing because they weren't hitting as well as others. Are there any that you were like, oh, this did not go as planned?
No. So fucking. I thought he meant 3 card effects. I'm like, 3 card effects.
Like, what tricks do I do with 3 cards?
Like Monty, like what's going?
It's that and the other.
Yeah, this, that, and the other. There you go.
3 card effects that you stopped doing because they weren't hitting as well as others. It's a good question. It's not that I can't think of one because that doesn't happen to me. I can't think of one because I feel like the times that that's happened, you realize that they're not hitting almost sooner rather than later. Like, I haven't really had an effect that I drilled 20 times in front of people and then decided that it wasn't hitting.
Yeah.
Maybe that's wrong.
It's more instantaneous.
Yeah, you kind of tell in the first few that something's majorly wrong with it. So you either fix it or move on. So I think just because in instance, since I would have moved on, it's hard to go back and now remember. But yeah.
For sure. Then there was another question. Oldest trick that you learned that you still do on a regular basis?
Sure. I learned... Oldest trick that I learned.
I think that's a good one because it's like sometimes like people ask like, what's the first card trick you ever learned, or first piece of magic, and I still will do that card trick and still fool people, but it's not a trick that I would do unless someone asked, you know. But there are a couple card tricks I learned like when I was a kid that still fry people. So
yeah.
And if you're constantly switching up material and constantly trying to change up and use a performance as an opportunity to test out material for an audience, it's like, what are the things that have really stood the test of time that like you just get so excited to do?
You know, I mean, I learned con-cam when I was like 14, 15. I'm still doing that now, you know, like a lot. Danny Ortiz has 3,800 any card at any numbers. But he has one that I think that was really popular on Utopia. He has one specifically that's really just a culmination of some very straightforward techniques that I've used over and over and over and over and over again. There's things like 2-card Monty, you know what I mean? Like, that's in my pocket. Like, that comes out time to time, you know? Yeah.
It's a classic.
Leonard Green, the way he does Out of This World, the way Leonard Green does Out of This World, another thing that just been in my back pocket for years and years and years. Like, there's a lot, you know, even like producing a card from the box. I'm just thinking, since I really started hitting the cards heavy around 14, 15, there's some stuff from that era that I absolutely still do.
Nice.
Stefan has a great question. Oh, wait, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Just like...
Lindsay's got the best questions tonight.
I have a dedicated poop deck.
I don't play with cards when I poop.
That's a good way to be. Yeah.
That was the oddest thing is I went to a magician's house. I won't mention any names, but I went to I was staying over at their place, and so I went to take a shower, and there's a deck of cards in the shower, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. No, they were plastic cards. Because I said, why do you have a deck of cards in the shower? And he's like, I practice them in the shower and stuff, and just reminded me of Blaze.
Showers are meant for taking calls, business meetings.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's what showers are for.
That's true.
But I was like,
cards in the shower. That's a fact.
Yeah. So I mean, if you got the shower cards, you might as well have shitter cards as well.
Yeah.
That might be a new deck release.
Stefan has a really good question.
Yeah.
So he's talking about when you're trying to pursue magic full time. Now, I know that your answer is probably going to be different from most because especially recently, you've been mostly pursuing your deck creation.
Right. Yeah, it's a good question. I think the main struggle with the concept of professional magic is nobody has a path for you that goes with all of us. All of us have had a different path than our friends and their mentor. Like, there is no path. So it just kind of becomes hard to say. Like, somebody like me throughout the years, I've done consulting, I've helped other people with deck projects. I've started my own playing card projects. I've performed, I've had like residencies at certain venues, and I've traveled a little bit and a little bit of private gigs here and there. But I wish I had like a really good answer for how somebody could do that as well. You just have to diversify your, I don't know, the potential business you can make as an artist. Because at a certain point, like you just kind of want to be an artist in the sense of, at least me, this could be fully opposite. Like I would like performing to be one of the things that I do for a while. Like I'm not necessarily happiest if somebody says, hey, you're going to perform in this room every day for the rest of your life. Like I'll be like, well, why can't I just do that like twice a week and then like do, make other stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that is a tough question because like you said, all three of us do that very differently.
Yeah.
Well, Blaze was like I've talked to him many times. Like I do a lot of corporate events and stuff, and then just a few weeks ago did some cruise ship stuff, and it's like and figured, okay, that's not really for me. I like my corporate like stuff when I'm dealing because I like business, so I like talking to those guys about business and stuff, and so for me that hits home. But I own a magic company as well and stuff, so I make money doing that. And it's like you brought out Dex cards, I brought out Dex cards in the past as well, and it's all the card clips and stuff, and and Blaze, you've had a different path than both of us, I'm sure, as well.
Until last year, the majority of my income was all through consulting, and then I would just do public shows in LA, like just whenever I was back in LA, like for those small increments of time, I would just like plan that out, months out, and then just like do a public show, and then just have months of stressing out about how I was going to sell tickets while not being in LA. And but now it's transitioned back to performing being the main job. But like, yeah, everybody has a different path with it. It's like when you talk, and with Stefan's original question about doing magic full time, that can mean a whole lot of different things, within the magic space. So it's like, it really, find your strengths and double down on it, and I know Stefan, especially from the Discord and from the 1v1 Magic competition, he has a great personality as a performer, like, so I imagine that his lane would be more the performing style and probably close up, but like, yeah, everybody's going to be different. If you're a great creator, then you can be like a Nicholas Lawrence who doesn't do any gigs, but is just constantly pumping out creations that end up on every Magic website,
Yeah,
well,
for sure.
It's all what path you go down, whatever you're interested in Magic. That's what's cool about Magic. It's a giant umbrella. It's not one thing. And anybody that tells you Magic is supposed to be one thing doesn't really, I don't know, at least I think doesn't get Magic.
Yeah, no, 100%. I like Caesar has a direct question. He says Pandora or Mockingbird.
Pandora.
And see, to me, I have no idea what he's talking about. Like,
both
two classics.
Blew my mind.
I mean, I've probably seen both and been like, wow, that looks cool. But to tell them apart, I'd be like, it would be a bad 50-50 guess.
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying, Blaze, for sure. Another thing that's, I think, helpful is with the connectivity we have nowadays, whatever side of Magic you venture into, behind the scenes, on camera, actually performing, consult, whatever, creating, if you excel in your like skills, people will find you, like, for sure. Yeah. Like if you have the right knowledge of the category you claim to have knowledge in, or if you excel in the area of performing that you're trying to go for, like you will find opportunities in ways that you might not have expected. So.
Yeah, 100%.
Grant wants to know if any of us have taken lessons in Magic before.
I have not. But, every relation with a magician is a lesson in its own way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think jam sessions are lessons. Like, I remember the first time I saw Blaze do One-Armed Bandit, and I was like, you're an asshole. That's like, I just said that. But he's like, this is easy. It's just and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. But I mean, it was a lesson for me. I was watching him do this thing and going, yeah, okay, this is nuts. Like, And I mean, Franco, when we were in New York, and I remember
there have also been like so many instances where we're having a conversation and you're talking to me about like the way in which that you market yourself or SEO or getting gigs or like, just, the way you structure your show and stuff. And I'm like, oh man, like, just every conversation is like I'm learning so much, and that's like the great thing, that's why I always feel like, the most valuable part of Magic Live is just going to the bar, that one like Mardi Gras bar at the end of the night.
Mardi Gras.
Talk to all of your idols, all of your legends, and get to, pick their brain is the best part,
Yeah. Well, I remember, like, Franco, when we were in New York, I asked you the other day when we were chatting, we just went to I remember we went to this little cafe or whatever, because we bought some, I remember you bought a juice, and I was like, oh, I got it, Franco, just put it on my bill. And then you're like, this is a really expensive bottle of juice. It was like cold pressed or something in New York City. It's like $18 for this bottle of juice. And I was like, I got the bill. I was like, what?
The more you talk about New York story, I'm like, oh, there's so much I don't remember. But
that's the problem, is because doing mentalism, I don't know. I actually have done studies or tests where I score in like the top 98% of memory stuff. Like, it's stupid. So I remember every detail of everything. It's nuts. Yeah. So I could tell you everything that we did, Franco, but I do remember Franco showed me this card trick when we were leaving the cafe, and like, it was absolutely nuts. But we chatted. We chatted after that about scripting and stuff for that, because you didn't have a script for it yet. And I remember asking you the other day, like, do you still do this trick and stuff? And, you couldn't remember what the trick was and stuff. It was all like this mirroring thing and stuff. But it was like, I remember being like, yeah, this is a lesson right here, because I was learning just how insane you were with a deck of cards at that point. Because before that, we were just friends. We hadn't really seen each other perform too much, but
that's right.
It was mind-boggling to see what someone could do with a deck. Dave says Gucci juice. That's exactly what it was.
Davey Rocket's in the house. That's amazing. Yeah, Davey Rocket's in the house. If that's another thing, talking about lanes in Magic. A lot of people probably don't know who Davey is, but you've definitely been impacted by his magic. So yeah,
Davey's the dude. I mean, Davey, him and I, when I was doing my residency at the Roosevelt, Davey's right-hand dude. Like, a day-to-day basis for figuring shit out, making it happen. And he's amazing at building gimmicks, as many of us know.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah,
I met him at the Magic Apple, and we had a long conversation. I think that it might have been when he was like gearing up to, like, you were about to start your residency or something. But yeah, Davey's a really cool dude.
Very cool. So fun.
Now, Tigger was about to spoil something, so I think we've got to get into the most important question of the night. Are you ready?
That. I'm always ready for this.
What?
Bada bing.
Lasagna! What's your favorite genre of lasagna? Meat. Lasagna. Veggie. Lasagna. Plain. Lasagna. Saucy. Lasagna. What's your favorite genre of lasagna? Keller.
Lasagna.
The most important question of the night, Franco.
This is, Franco, I told you before that people on the Discord. So before the episode tonight, we hopped on the Discord with our patrons and did an hour chat, kind of hang out with them. And the question came up, what would be your favorite? And that's kind of what they were betting on. So, Franco, what's your favorite genre of lasagna?
I'm learning a lot right now. One, I'm learning there's more than 2 genres of lasagna. That's I'm not learning.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
I also didn't know that there were like segments like this on the show. But if I had to give you my answer, the real answer would be I'm taking a chicken parm over the lasagna 10 times out of 10. But let's put that aside. Let's put it on the shelf. Let's forget about it.
We'll shelf that chicken parm.
Yeah.
Classic. Meat, bolognese sauce, cheese, top it with Parmesan, crispy. If it's not crispy, you're kidding yourself. And that's my answer. Classic lasagna. Tomato,
Classic lasagna.
red
Nice.
I said that he was gonna say it. I
You did, yeah.
told you he
You
was
did
gonna
call it.
Boom.
You did. We were trying to look up a California style of it, but
Ben Jones was really Googling for quite a while trying to find
Yeah.
the California lasagna to try and guess what you were gonna say.
he definitely was.
I was like, he's gonna just go for a classic. You know, we've had a lot of very creative answers on this one. You know, I thought you were gonna just say a chicken parm lasagna. That would have been off the
That's
chart.
a thing? I didn't know that was a thing.
You can make up your own genre, man. We've had triangular from Steve Valentine. Colin
Yeah.
Cloud said that his favorite was microwaved, reheated second day lasagna.
Yeah.
We've had creative answers. You know, Takumi said that he wanted salmon lasagna. We were like, what?
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, salmon lasagna. That was an odd one. And Nabber, I think it's Nabber or Nabin, just became a patron. So thank you so much. I think it's Pavel, really, but but he wants to come on and chat with us to see, you know, the bet. So the other bet is our follow-up question to that is if you were to bake one classic meat bolognese lasagna, and then you baked a second
Identical.
meat classic, identical, and then Blaze, you take it away.
Now, if you were to take that second meat bolognese lasagna and stack it atop the first,
Okay.
how many lasagna do you have now?
One lasagna
This
or
is
two?
the Theseus of lasagna, right?
This is the Theseus of lasagnas.
I'm going to go with two.
Two?
Because the intent has to matter somewhere. The intent of the chef. Dude made two lasagnas. I don't care if you put one in your pocket, throw it against the wall, and the other one on a plate. Still two lasagnas. They're just separated, stacked.
If a stack of lasagnas falls in the woods, does it make a sound? So no, but that's good. That you're on the same line of thinking as Takumi. Takumi said, did I bake them myself or did someone else bake them? And that blew our mind.
Yeah, because he wanted to see it.
Yeah, he said if he baked you, then
you got to see it for sure.
Yeah. So
also, we'd like to remind everybody, if you go to allaccessmagic.com/shop, you can check out what's your favorite genre of lasagna merch. What's your favorite genre of lasagna hoodies, t-shirts, lasagna mathematics hoodies? We got them all.
And I seen Tigger
merch.
Tigger asked, "Are you guys gonna make? I wonder if lasagna is thinking about me too merch." Yes, that will be another T-shirt that'll be available very soon.
We already have it designed, but that'll be up coming soon. It'll be available for the patrons first. You'll hear about it on the Weekly Patter episode, and then it'll be available to everybody else after that. So,
but if you're a patron, you also get a discount on it as well. So you get a discount on everything on our store. So.
Nice.
Yeah, and you get the exclusive Magic After Dark merch and all of the other Patreon exclusive designs. So, moving on from the most important question of the night. I'm really happy that we got that out of the way. That was
Hang on, Davey Raga. Davey's got a great answer.
Yeah, he knows.
Argentinian lasagna with red wine reduction. Oof. Oh, Davey, you're on another level.
Davey, talk dirty to me, Davey. That was
that was.
Yeah, we need to get Davey on the show.
That's it, Davey. You're coming on. We're just gonna do lasagna theory. That's it. That was crazy.
Yeah. Now I was wondering if you were going to equate the lasagna to a deck or something. You were going to be like, well, if we stack these together cohesively make up one deck, even though they are 52 individual items.
Right. I was thinking that. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do this.
We're not going to do this. It's like, man, I almost put more thought into lasagna than I should have. No, we can definitely move on. Now
Zach Mears in the house.
Oh yeah, what's up, Zach?
Big Zach.
Albert has a question. What do you think of all the card magic tutorials online by a myriad of magicians? Is it oversaturated?
Yeah, I think it is oversaturated. But just from the point of what I would consider to be like valuable information for the price. Like there's a lot of things out there that I don't hate, but I could kind of go, save those $30 and get this instead for $30. It'll help your magic more, in my opinion. So I think it's saturated in that regard. But what we see is people with their own followings, like doing it, right? Like they have their own following, so you kind of can't steer them wrong. For those of you who don't know, I have an Instagram called Magic Intel. And on Magic Intel, I teach free ideas from time to time, stuff that's original of mine and my friends. There's some secret products on that page as well that you could get. I only have one written publication, and that publication is called the Half-Life Procedure. And if you're a memorized deck worker or a stack worker, you can do really, really amazing things with the tool that I describe in that booklet. It's called the Half-Life Procedure. If you want that booklet, you could DM me. It's $20 and I could send you that ebook. But it's an awesome tool. It's a hands-off kind of thing that the spectator does, a way of the spectator selecting a card on their own while implying a little bit of a shuffle, and secretly you're in control of a lot. So it's very, very useful. I use it all the time. I have 0 negative reviews on it. The only reason I'm plugging that so hard is because it's the only thing that I have out. I don't just keep throwing shit at a wall until it sticks. I have tried this stuff and it's pretty fun. And even if you don't do mem deck work, if you don't do stack work, there's routines that you could do with 0 memorization. So highly applicable. The Half-Life Procedure, $20, which is a steal. DM me if you want it. And follow Magic Intel. It's for magicians and cardists only, so it's private. But I go through, and if your page is on private, DM me so I know that you're actually a magician. But if not, I check people's accounts and let them in. Anyways, I say that because I do think some of my free, fun ideas are better than other ones that you pay for. And if you're trying to navigate the internet market space, I think that through the eyes of ourselves who have been blessed, and we are lucky enough to have been able to perform, numerous settings, I think it's really easy for us to distinguish between somebody who's teaching you things from a fictional world, that they're teaching you things from a version of the real world that lives in their heads more than in the real world, right? And I think we could smell when you're actually getting advice that was created in the real world versus here's just an idea. I mean, let's be honest. How many times do we have to learn to push off double lift? I mean, come on, dude. Like, there's so many places to learn to put. Like, what are you adding to the push off double lift? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Like the DPS, it's like, what's up with that move? Like, get over that move. That move's flop. Like, do a different move. Everything's DPS, palming, double lift. Second deal.
Yeah, there's the other aspect of the fact that so many people, or so many of the tutorials online, are clearly someone who just learned it, has not performed it, and is immediately teaching it. And it's like, you just, I think that the more magic you do, the easier it is to like see those and, scroll through, you just don't pay that any mind. But
yeah.
We've got Tigger was asking about slights, uploading videos where they can't do slight. What do you guys think about people teaching things they barely learn themselves? Oh yeah, so that's exactly what I was just saying.
And at the end of the day, it's all relative based on the time you put into it, but you brought up the point that they just learn these things. And even if they didn't just learn it, even if they learned it 6 months ago or a year ago, it's like sometimes it's not really enough, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Other ideas are easy to quantify, where you might be able to learn it in a day and then teach it, and it can be valuable. Like, that still exists. It's not impossible, but it just depends where it's coming from.
Well, I think that's why, like, Blaze and myself, we started reviewing some tricks and stuff from people, because like there's so much magic on the market there's some stuff that's really great and really brilliant, and it could be used, right away and stuff, or will go into our working repertoires. But there's a lot of stuff that's just garbage that people put out just to put out stuff. And so we decided we were going to start reviewing some stuff, because you're actually getting a review from 2 guys that work all the time. Right? Because a lot of guys, you watch review shows and sometimes like this guy doesn't actually perform for audiences. He's sitting in a bedroom.
It's hard to do because and I work with Ron a lot, and I've worked with Theory 11 in the past. Love Theory 11, love the guys over there. They market magic, and they try and go for like Just like they don't oversaturate their magic marketplace. They really think about the releases, you know what I mean? And I appreciate that. But all that aside, right? There's something that just kills me because like I go out and I get these ideas that I just feel every once in a while, right? I just feel like, oh, like that's such a good idea. But it's not the type of idea that you could market sheerly on the camera kind of effect, right? Some things on camera, you just can't like film it and show people. Like you just can't. Then they see it and go, oh, I get it. Monkey see, monkey do. And they think they're doing it, but they're missing some subtleties, you know, like there's a power to secrets in the sense that, you know, like Blaze, you and I could probably tell each other a couple sentences describing a card effect or routine that you do or came up with, and that could change your whole shit. Just by you saying, try this, put that there, okay? Now ask for this, boom, 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 and then make your way to that. Literally, you can give me a full
the subtleties are everything. Yeah,
and it would be amazing. But maybe filming it, it's just like people go, "Oh, I get it," but really that's not the deal. But I was doing a little close-up set on New Year's at my friend's house. Okay, we're all drinking, we're smoking, we're sitting around the carpet. I'm just doing magic, okay? And I uploaded some of these clips. The first two things I did was I found a named card. I then had two sensational outs back-to-back performing mnemonicosis. What some people would argue could be of the higher fooling impact level card magic could get, right? When you're almost trick that can't be explaining and hitting two bullseyes back-to-back. It's almost like, what do you do after that? After that, the dude was so shocked by those effects of the mem deck that he starts shuffling my mem deck because he thinks there's dupes. And instead of panicking, I just go to the non-shuffle deck repertoire. I do a production of a 4-of-a-kind. I do an assembly with that 4-of-a-kind. Very template, textbooks things. I execute it cleanly. I've been doing it for years and years and years, right? And then I end and finish and kill the whole room after all of those crazy effects with a crisscross force and a well-placed prediction, you know? Because of the way it was choreographed, they went nuts, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if your brain could really grasp some of these things that are actually powerful versus what seems to be powerful, it just kills me that you can't film some of it. Because it's like...
Well, yeah, because if you were to film that, and magicians would go like, oh, crisscross force is a beginner shit. But it's like, no, you're not understanding the actual power of that moment. And you're not understanding why that the context allowed that to build to such a height and why that was so impactful.
And if somebody goes, hey, what do you do when somebody shuffles your mem deck? If I go, oh, crisscross force, like what? That's the most boring answer I could have given. Maybe with detail they'll understand, but it seems almost like it's stupid, but it's not, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's funny talking to like Garrett Thomas. Like Garrett has a book that he's written, and like he'll say, I do conversational magic, where he starts with a conversation and then does a trick to fit that person and what they're dealing with in that day and stuff, right? And it's like, wow, what? And it's like most guys just go, I'm going to go into this. Now, if Garrett released a book on that or whatever, people would be like, oh, yeah, well, the guy, I'm just going to do my regular card tricks, you know? Like, people aren't going to put that work into it. But, like, his thought process on that stuff is crazy, but, again, not something that you could ever film and put out like that. But, I mean, it's one of the most brilliant things when you think about it.
Like, oh, I'm so excited to perform the Janet from Maryland card trick.
Yeah.
Like, this one specific routine that's been tailored to this audience member.
There is something that goes for,
this is the Karen card trick.
Yeah. Just a quick tangent. There is something that compels me about shifting methods halfway through the routine based on something that happens. And a lot of times when you think about that, right, you think about, oh, you have to shift to now this. A lot of times it's like an out, or it's under that context of like, this is my plan B, C, D, or whatever, because something didn't go as planned. There's also situations where that could happen not because of a like method situational thing. It could happen because of a response they give you, which sometimes I think is something Garrett might incorporate. So you ask somebody a question, and based on how they answer that question, you can now redirect the effect, right, to one of two options. And the only reason I bring that up is because I have this presentation that fascinates me, because the presentation, I'll show you, I'm not going to show the effect, but I'll show you the presentation in a second. it could lead into like 5 different effects. Okay. And I think it's interesting how you could give yourself a starting template that physically leads to different effect. And the question at hand was the following. Somebody lifts up the deck and turns up cards. This is the card you cut to. Name one of these cards, 10 of clubs. Okay, great. So look, we have 2 cards here, Ryan. We have the card we know and the card we don't know. We have a mystery, and we have the opposite of that mystery. What's more interesting to you? Do you embrace the mystery, or are you happy with what you already know? Right? Simple question. Simple question. But I was with, I keep saying Ron because I was seeing Ron a lot recently, but I was with Ron, and at this question, based on how they answered, we thought of 2 different effects to go with that, right? Because you don't necessarily want to make one seem more appealing, but of course, we all know there's always more you don't know, and people resonate more with what they don't know. So this becomes the more interesting card, right? And this single presentation, just, you know, there could be 5 different effects here. They could guess what this card is. That's probably the level 1 answer. You have this whole thing, you're talking about the known and the unknown, and then they somehow guess what that card is, and it is, right? That's maybe what the first thing the brain would jump to. But then there's another kind of alternative thing where you frame this issue as this card being more interesting when really this card doesn't matter at all. It's a joker. They're all jokers, and this is a red card, right? And that you can kind of use that template and physically get different effects for it, right? You can do something where these cards are here, but if they turn that 10 over, it seems like for whatever reason, you don't know much anymore. Like, you know the 10's there, but you're not saying it's there, right? So if I place it here instead of there, which one would you want to see, okay? And then they never get to see the card. You go, oh, that's still a 10. Take it, shuffle it behind your back. Place any card on the table. You get to see the one that you place, right? And they never see, whatever. That lets you go through these different rabbit holes of effects, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Just remind me what you're saying.
Things are really interesting.
Yeah.
That's a really cool presentation. Do you have a creative process that you can articulate, or is it constantly changing and shifting each time depending on the effect? Is it usually based on what you study and then trying to create something after that, or just a random stroke of inspiration? Is there, you know, how would you describe your creative process as you're going about, you know, building repertoire magic?
It's always changing. Lately, the core of what I'm studying in these past months is how one presentation could physically lead you down different effects. Because there's a lot of mysticism at how are effects even created, where does that come with, right? And I think it's interesting how a singular framing could actually get you to think of completely different things here, right? And I just happened to be thinking about this one, and, you know, another example of a presentation, right? You talk about how this is a mystery, you say, here, say stop. Let's add another character. Would you agree that these 2 cards are more interesting than this one? I would say so as well. What if there's 3? It doesn't make a difference, right? And now you're in this situation to do a 4 of a kind, for example. Yeah. Interesting about that is feels very different than a 4 of a kind effect, you know? But for whatever reason, talking about the known and the unknown in this instance, just kind of that way, you have a lot to say, you know, and a lot to kind of take it down. So I think that's really interesting for me right now, in terms of a creative process for effects. And sometimes it's not directly a template like this. Sometimes it's, can you think of an awesome sentence or 2 that lets your brain go crazy on what the routine's going to be? You know what I mean? Yeah. At the end of the day, the method is just what it has to be. If your method is ultimately that you're going to write something with a boon on a blank piece of paper, like, you could bring an entire house down with that. Like, you could murder with that. You know, that's an incredible method. So if you decide that you want to say the right thing at the right moment, your brain could go, like, you know, you can talk about anything. You could say, look, we all suck. We all know that it sucks when we find out that somebody you know is a liar. It's a bad feeling, but it's much worse when that person makes you seem like a liar, right? And then you think like, oh fuck, like, can I make a trick out of that, right? And that's, you totally can. You can make a person seem like a liar in many, many ways in magic, right? Remember your card, what was it? No, you're wrong, right? That would be a stupid way to do it, right? But it's just kind of like, give yourself as many tools to let your brain kind of, how do you want it to end? If you come up with the beginning, it's like, how do you want it to end? The beginning of a movie, a cowboy walks into a saloon, grabs a bottle and smashes it over somebody's head, seems happy about it, and then leaves. And then you go, fuck, what's that movie about? What's about to happen? Is that the antagonist or the protagonist, right? Was that or planned? Was that whatever, you know? So lately, my creative process has started with the beginning and found its way to the end. Although in the past, I've started at the end and worked my way through. I've started at the middle and found the beginning and end, but
yeah, I mean, that's really interesting because, yeah, in that instance, you're starting from an idea and simply just what exists within your mind, and allowing the different ideas to flow, whatever comes to mind, and then following the different channels that could come out from the same origin, and then the method becomes just whatever is necessary in order to achieve that idea. And I feel like when I'm creating, I usually find myself going from, not starting with cards in my hand. It's starting from whatever I can imagine. And then if it is a card effect, then it's like imposing that upon the cards. And like, maybe it's like, oh, I come up with a method, but it's like my hands aren't capable of doing it yet. So I need to like drill this idea and make my hands able to do that thing, but like, I feel like with cardistry, I'm always fascinated with how cardists create because I'm so much more new to that realm. And, and I wonder, is your creative process with cardistry very different from how you'd create magic? Because then I feel a lot of that comes from flow, and it's almost like a totally different place where it's like you allow the cards to show you what they're capable of, and then you learn from the continual motion. How often are you, when you're creating cardistry, starting with just like, oh, this is a really cool structure, and you see it in your mind and then make it happen? Or is it that you discover something as you're in motion?
It's a really good question. When it comes to magic, since you're just trying to curate the best magical experience, whatever that means, right? We're constantly borrowing methods, effects, things we saw years ago that transformed in our heads, trying to make it our own, trying to change it, right? So a lot of magic naturally comes from the work of giants that came years before us that we're continuing to elaborate on. In cardistry, there are some people that think in their head first, and they think, oh, I want something that maybe flows like this, or I want something that has a double square structure, or I want something with 2 packets and 3 single cards. What is that? Okay. And then they do it. I never, ever, ever, ever do that. When I do cardistry, it has to start with the exploration, the decks in hand, and then I just kind of see what I can do. So I start by just playing with the cards, slowly trying to discover a movement. And based on that movement I discover, I feel myself, I see if it looks good, and then I go, maybe that's an opener, maybe that's an ender, maybe that's a middle, maybe I could elaborate on this, double it, triple it, add a packet, blah, blah, blah. So me personally always starts with the physical mechanics of exploring and trying to discover a new mechanic, because right now in cardistry, it's really important to me that my creations stand out as a Franco creation and not a variation of a variation of a variation. There's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of cardistry nowadays is, it stems from another move and it variates to something beautiful. Totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I would actually say I'd rather be what?
Oh, I was going to say, it just sounds like a magic trick at that point, right? Like everybody has taken this, and then I have a variation on this because my finger is here instead of here, and it's like that's a new release. It's ridiculous, a little bit ridiculous. So I love that you're saying like I start off with my own creation, and it has to be, a Franco creation.
In fact, I'll like. Not like, I don't like to think this happens, okay? Like, I'm very happy where my cardistry work is now, and I like, there's a lot that I'm still working on, which is exciting. But I'm much more willing to like sacrifice a little bit of impact and alienate the audience a little bit if I'm a little bit more original in cardistry, just because I'm just trying to see what's around me. So I'm more willing to take that trade-off in cardistry for, I don't know, a variety of reasons, but yeah,
interesting. So it's much more. Oh well, Ryan just okay. Well, I guess he's gonna.
No, I'm back. Sorry, I clicked the thing by accident. So
gotcha.
My bad.
Yeah, so that's with cardistry, it's much more exploratory. It's like you're kind of like mining for gold, like you're digging in and
you're mining for sure. You're mining for an idea. I think of it that way. In fact, we've used that same analogy with friends, which is interesting that you've said that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always very fascinating to me how, looking at the totally different creative processes between magic and cardistry. And that's interesting of like, when there's a certain set of grips and structures that have all been done before, how to make sure that yours doesn't feel tangential or derivative at all is definitely like an interesting challenge,
And then the other thing, which you mentioned, I think, flow a little bit earlier. One thing that in cardistry happens a lot, right? With cardistry, I can get into like really, really technical discussions. I don't think we should do that here, where like physically I'm talking about grips and what they mean, But one thing that's really important to keep in mind and that I do is while I create, I'm constantly tracking my progress on a little tripod with my phone camera, because ultimately I'm going to film this move. So I can't really tell what a move looks like just by looking down at it, which is a bit of a paradox. But cardistry looks fully different at a different angle. Every angle looks different for that move. So I need that camera there to track my progress as I come up with an opener, right? I have an opener that's like this. That card goes through, that pivots, okay? Very weird grips, very weird motion. But I had to see myself to that to realize opener checks out, right? I could see the video of the opener. I go, done. I'm not going to move that. I like how that looks. That's now in concrete. Let's continue the move from there. Now, if you skip those steps, what happens is you have a theoretically, conceptually interesting move, but I'm of the belief that people's care and interest drops to about 50% if you don't nail that execution. You got to nail that execution and flow. And very important for me. If I see sloppy packets, like hairs stand up, like I can't do it. You know what I mean? So I think
it's like nails on a chalkboard. Sloppy packets.
Because when I think about magic, you either flash or you don't, right? Like those are your options. And if there's a camera on, you have two options: you flashed or you didn't flash. So when I see cards move, I'm like, well, did this guy do the thing? It's not a flash, but it's just like, did you really kill that move? Like, did you execute that amazingly?
Yeah. And so then so is your iPhone storage just constantly maxed out?
Yeah, it is.
I literally just, because I also do the same thing with creating slides, is like I will film constantly the iterations and get it to the point. I also do like a kind of weird thing. I don't know if you do this, where I find that I learn, especially if there's something that I'm trying to create, I learn about my own creation by trying to articulate it as if I'm teaching to somebody. So I'll film a video of me explaining what I'm doing. That way I can turn what is knacky and simply feeling based into something that is concrete and mechanical. Something that I can articulate, so I try to articulate all of the things that start off as a knacky, just like feeling thing, and that way I could describe it to somebody else, but I'm not ever going to show anybody else those videos. It's just through the process of me trying to teach an imaginary person, I learn.
I would say it's so smart that you implement that specifically. I don't think I do that, but I've definitely caught myself teaching somebody and realizing something I didn't know about the move or the effect.
That's where it came from. Yeah, it was like when I would try to explain it to somebody else, I would be like, oh shit, I never even thought about it that way until I needed to explain it to you. So I was like, I'm just going to do that every time I create something. I'm just going to explain it to an imaginary person. Like in order to learn for myself. But it's just like I just ended up offloading 512 gigabytes of videos like onto a hard drive of like footage that will never be seen, but is like just the progress. So that's interesting. Yeah, that you're constantly documenting it.
Always, especially with cardistry and then magic. Of course, now I really care about body language, posture, and just like, do I buy it? Like, because we all cringe when we look at videos at ourselves, especially if we're not excelling as what we think we are in our mind, right? So I love filming routines and going through these little pattern points and seeing it, because like you sometimes when you see it, like you'll see a clip of yourself and you're like, I buy myself here. You're like I co-sign with this. Like you're looking at yourself and you're kind of like, I dig this. That's a really good sign, because most of the time, at least me, I'm my own harshest critic. I look at myself and I like pause the video halfway through and delete it and go, nobody's ever going to see this video. I'm like,
100%.
Small things. You notice small things that you would never realize. Like I have a problem sometimes where I'll like talk more out of the side of my mouth, which isn't really ideal unless you're specifically saying something cheeky and then you're going back already talking, right? So that's something that in the past few years I've been more conscious of, but so it's.
How do you keep track of all of the different effects that you've learned over time and all of the different cardistry sequences that you are working on all at the same time? Like, do you have a notebook where you're organizing it? Do you have a spreadsheet? Do you just use your Photos app on your phone and like just dive into all the videos? Like, how do you keep track of all of the different things? And that way you don't allow good pieces of your repertoire to slip through the cracks and be forgotten.
iPhone notes. Save your iPhone notes. I also have a couple physical notes. When it comes to cardistry, like it's all in your muscle memory in terms of what grips you can access and tap into. But sometimes the exact arrangement of moves you forget. In fact, there's even moves that I've done, created, felt like some of my best moves I've created, and I haven't done the move since I filmed it, you know, because I'm always on to the next thing and going on to it. So with cardistry, I'm not always constantly refining what I've already made. I'm going on this journey. I'm taking a few things from the past with me, leaving other stuff behind, and just always trying to get new and better. With magic, it's different because you are constantly refining something. And when we find a routine that hits, we want to hold on to it with our dear life and only try and make it better for the rest of our lives, right? I'm sure there's some routines that we all do now that we'll still be doing in 30 years, and they'll be even better than they are now in 30 years.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing is like there are those things where, you hold on to it forever because it becomes your thing, right? It's like, it's your classic. And for some of us, it's something that no one else does, which is always the best part. And it's that secret that you take to the grave, right? Which kind of brings you back to what magic started as. Like, you know, people were traveling all like across the world to figure out how a trick was done and stuff. And then when you have a piece like that you're like, I'm just going to continue to do this for the next 30 or 40 or 50 years, you know, it becomes something special to you, I think, which and separates you from everybody else, which in the magic world is important to have something that separates yourself from everybody else in the genre. So
definitely. And gentlemen, I'm going to have to leave in 5 minutes.
I was looking at the time, and
it's your mom's birthday. Also, Lindsay wished your mom a happy birthday, and her question was, "How do you feel that she's the only one who wished your mom a happy birthday this entire stream?"
We all wish your mom a happy birthday.
Thank you, Lindsay.
I like Ben had a crazy question. It's a hard one to answer quickly, but it's he says, "What would you tell someone who wants to start performing magic professionally but doesn't know where to start?"
I mean, yes, you chose the hardest question all night.
That's it.
I don't know. Just got to do it a lot. Just do it a lot. Perform a lot. And I'll tell you one thing. I don't think you're ever going to force somebody into loving performing unless they already want to do that themselves. So I would say perform a lot, and in a few years, you'll know how you feel about it. You'll know if it's for you.
Yeah. If you're questioning whether you want to be a performer and you've done a lot of performing, then you're probably on the wrong path, because it's not really a question at a certain point. But yeah, it's like, I think people really nowadays, when it comes to marketing and everything, really they undervalue word of mouth a lot. If you're really good at what you do and people see you, whether that's in person or at a local restaurant or bar, or they see you online on Instagram, if you're good at what you do, then word of mouth will spread, and and then that will lead to opportunities. As long as you put yourself out there as a professional and you say that I perform and you can hire me, then the doors will open. Just make sure you put yourself out there as much as possible.
Absolutely.
And let's see if we've got any. We had this guy asked the same question a couple times. He says, "Is there plans for another entry deck? And if you could tell a worker magician to get one brick of cards, what would it be?"
It's all Cardilago, baby.
Cardilago.
No more entry. I'm all Cardilago. So I've been working a lot on this stuff. So cardilago.com. If I could tell a worker magician to get one brick of cards, I'll tell you what I use professionally. Obviously my cards, because they're mine, and
Cardilago.
I marked them for a reason, right? But I use these, and I use the thin crushed tally hose or bicycle. So
that's what I was going to say. Most performers go back to those because your audience recognizes them as regular cards. which is crazy. But you have to, if you have a crazy looking deck, most people in the real world may not think that they're a real deck of cards. They're like, I get asked that all the time. But if I brought a deck of cards, could you do the same thing with my deck?
I go, hell yeah. I go, bring me the deck right now. Like
that's it. I'm always like, come, bring it if you have it, because it's the same thing. But
awesome. Yeah. Well, this has been a blast. We've had some really great questions from the chat. We had a great question come in through our call in, and thank you so much for joining us, Franco. This was awesome. So,
and should we tell them who's coming on next week? Because Franco, so when I was hanging out with Franco, probably for like the first time, we ran into this guy in Vegas, and it was me, Franco, and Michael Blau, and he said, this guy, he stopped us, and he's like, these two guys right here are the only reason I made a trip to the Magic Castle this year. And that guy is a guy that has changed the Magic game, I think. I mean, in every facet, he's brilliant. He's another man, the myth, the legend. We have Mr. Chris. We have Mr. Chris Kenner.
Chris, the man, the myth, the legend. Chris Kenner on next week. We are so hyped for that. So tune in next week, same time, Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, on this YouTube channel, and you can see us interview the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Kenner. But tonight's all about Mr. Franco Pascali, and check out his Cardilago cards. Apparently, his pre-order for the new deck already sold out. So get the other ones. Get the original.
Get the other ones. And Franco,
and then get the new ones when they're printed in a month.
That's it.
Okay.
Hey, and peace. Franco, from Lindsay, give your mom a hug for us. All right.
I will. I will.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Catch us on the Patreon during the week. You'll get extra episodes with us. So patreon.com/allaccessmagic. But I think till next week.
This has been
See you guys.
See you. Peace.